All right. Good morning, IHSA football family. How you guys doing? We are now week 4 games of the week. If you don't know me, my name is Peter Leinweber, aka Coach Big Pete, publisher of DeepDishFootball.com. Make sure you follow Coach Big Pete and Deep Dish Football on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And again, my email is CoachBigPeteFP@gmail.com if you have any questions. That's CoachBigPeteFP@gmail.com if you have any questions. And again, Wednesday at 8 p.m. is Deep Dish Football Live on the Deep Dish Football Facebook page. Thursday at 8 p.m. is the Do Page Run and Shoot show on the Do Page Run and Shoot Facebook page with my co-host Patrick Cotto. He's the brain. And on Saturday morning, 9 a.m., is Breakfast with Coach Big Pete as I go through all of the scores. And again, just a quick reminder, there is no Deep Dish Football game of the week this week. As you can see, I am currently right now on the floor shooting this video because going to some renovations in my place. And it's taken a long time, a very, very long time. And this is literally the only time where there's no noise or anything like that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys tonight at 8 p.m. Probably like this on the floor again. But sorry for the whole situation. I don't even have a desk to shoot my stuff in. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So, and just a quick reminder, at the end of this video, I will be posting the polls for week 4, IHSA football. First time coming out, Deep Dish football polls, IHSA football. Week 4, watch to the end of this video and all the polls will be posted from 1A to 8A. And again, polls don't matter. Middle-aged men like myself and other men do not decide football games or championships. It's the kids, and that's what high school football is all about. It's about the kids. Simple as that. So, let's get ready for Week 4 IHSA football, shall we? So, just a quick reminder too, and I forgot to mention this as well. Coaches, players, at the end of your game, if you want to nominate your player for Deep Dish Football Player of the Night in the state of Illinois Friday night, please let me know. I beg of you. You got to let me know and send the stats. It doesn't have to be clear stats. Just send me how many touchdowns that player scored or if it was over an amount of yardage. I'm looking for the player of the night Friday night from usually from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., even later, 2 a.m. Please let me know if you have a player of the night in the state of Illinois. Again, my email is CoachBigPeteFP@gmail.com. So, as I always do in this week, Games of the Week, I will be scrolling through IHSA.org for Week 4. So, let's begin. Shall we? First, Mantoon at Effingham, very interesting game as Mantoon beat Lincoln, so definitely an interesting game. Lincoln at Mamahood Seymour, another interesting game as well. Taylorville, Mount Zion, also interesting. Taylorville lost to Mantoon. Taylorville goes against the Mount Zion team, and I think it's a battle of 2-1, so it should be a very interesting game. Mamahood Seymour is the big dog in the Apollo Conference right now. Dixon at Stillman Valley. Big game in the Big Northern. Genoa Kingston at Bryan. I believe both teams are undefeated, if I'm not mistaken. Genoa Kingston's offensive line, they're just rocking people. It should be a great game in the Big Northern Conference. Also, not that much going on with the Big 12, as I see. I'd be interested in Normal Community at Peoria Notre Dame. Very interested in the Peoria Notre Dame team. They look good this year. Good running attack, good offensive line. So it should be an interesting game as Normal Community is also undefeated. Should be a good game as Normal Community takes on Peoria Notre Dame. All right. So we get into the Black Diamond Conference. Fairfield has that tough loss against Johnston City last week, and they take on a tough team in the undefeated Flora. That should be a big game as Fairfield takes on Flora. Definitely a big deciding factor in the Black Diamond Conference, especially with Flora moving to the Black Diamond this season. I'm looking out for that game. That should be a hell of a game. as we look off out in the southern Illinois area. I'm also no Dupo versus Westland could be an interesting game as well. I like Dupo. I like their defensive line as well in the Cuyahoga Conference, Illinois division. Um, Columbia at Roxana, looking interesting at Columbia. Wood River at Salem. Salem's another interesting team this year as well. Mount Carmel at Marist is the CCL ESCC Blue Division is the big conference, is the big games this week. As Mount Carmel takes on Marist, that's going to be a big game. Both teams are undefeated. And Loyola Academy takes on Brother Rice. The interesting thing with Loyola Academy versus Brother Rice is it's going to be a challenge with two quarterbacks, Jack Lausch and Jack Sterney. And both their passing attacks, I think both ground games are going to be canceled out by just strong defensive lines on both squads. For Mount Carmel versus Marist, again, the big thing for Mount Carmel is how do you contain Dontrell Jackson and those wide receivers? Those wide receivers, yes, they're small, but they're deadly, and they'll burn your zone defense, no doubt about that. Nazareth Academy and Niles Notre Dame. Can Nazareth get off the schneid and get at least one win? We'll see against a tough Niles Notre Dame team. Benedict Academy at St. Rita. Another interesting game. St. Rita is 1-2, but their two losses were against Mount Carmel and Loyola, big dog teams. So this is a perfect game for St. Rita. But Benedict Academy, they're looking good as well. So it should be interesting. St. Lawrence and Montini. Can Montini get a second win? So that's another interesting game as well. Providence Catholic at Julia Catholic. That's another great game. Julia Catholic, again, is number one team. Providence Catholic has only one loss, and they're looking good this season, so it should be an interesting game as well. St. Viator at Carmel. Carmel's got a chance to be 2-1. They're 2-1, and their one loss was they had to forfeit due to COVID protocols. If they get the win, they'll be 3-1. Definitely a team to watch out for, especially they got a good little quarterback and passing attack at Carmel. Nope, that's not a good game. And we had, again, some more games that were canceled due to COVID protocol, which absolutely sucks. Tuscola, Shelbyville, interesting game. Central A&M is killing in the Central Illinois Conference, no doubt about that. That's an interesting team. Central State 8. Springfield versus Sacred Heart Griffins, the big game. Springfield's undefeated. Sacred Heart Griffins 2-1. They just came off of a loss in the Leonard Bolt to Derek Leonard. Keep an eye out for Springfield's Rashid Rochelle. A complete, definite battle against Springfield's offensive line and Springfield Sacred Heart Griffins' defensive line. It's going to be an interesting game. I think that's a top 10 game in the state of Illinois as Springfield takes on Sacred Heart Griffin. No doubt about that. The Decatur MacArthur versus Chatham Glenwood should be interesting. That's another interesting game. The Decatur MacArthur looks really good this season again. Should be interesting. And they got a good group of senior athletes too, Decatur MacArthur. So definitely keep an eye out for that. For the Chicago public schools, they didn't do so well these first 3 weeks. I think this is going to be a week that returns to normalcy. I think I'm taking a look literally at let me find them. I think Phillips is going to return. I think Simeon is going to return with 2 wins. I think it's going to be returned to normalcy. Kenwood's looking great. Morgan Park is looking unbelievable this season. So then again, I think the CPS teams are going to return back to the normalcy of winning. I think they scheduled a lot of tough games these first couple of weeks. All right, let's get to the Duquesne Conference. It's Batavia. They'll take on Lake Park. That's a definite win for Batavia. St. Charles North at Wheaton North is a very interesting game. Wheaton North played Batavia tough to overtime but lost. St. Charles North came off of a loss to Wheaton Warrenville South. This is going to be a huge, huge game for both teams. and especially with St. Charles North again. Like I said, Ethan Plum, he's looking good. Strong defensive line, low controversy with St. Charles North at Warrenville South. A lot of fans angry about what happened at that game, but I think it should be a good game for St. Charles North taking on Wheaton North. And Wheaton North, they proved a lot. They have proved a lot these first 3 weeks. Definitely an interesting game. DuPage Valley, Neuqua Valley versus Naperville North is the big game in that on that schedule. Again, for Neuqua Valley, they're 3-0. They're looking Meineke, the quarterback, good passing attack with Larkin, and he also plays defensive back. And I'm forgetting Sessa at wide receiver. They're looking good. I have Neuqua Valley as one of my best teams in the state of Illinois. They are a beast of a team. Yeah, not that much going on in the Fox Valley Conference. Jacobs at Prairie Ridge. I think that's a big game. Jacobs, can he get off? They lost a tough game, and they're playing a tough team in Prairie Ridge. Prairie Ridge is undefeated. So is Cary Grove as well, and they are playing. Cary Grove is playing. Where are they? They're playing McHenry. And Burlington Central at Huntley as well. Very interesting game too. As we get to it, Leroy, Gibson City, big game for Gibson City. They're looking good. They're missing their star player, so that should be another interesting game as well. Going down to the Illini Prairie Conference, Monticello versus Central Catholic. That's another interesting game as well. Prairie Central, Rantoul Prairie Central. I'm looking at Toledo Unity is another good team that's unbelievable this season. Toledo Unity, Monticello, and I'm forgetting the third team in this conference. Prairie Central, all 3 teams that you need to check out in the Illini Prairie. Reed Custer takes on Mantinos. They beat Lyle last week, so that's another big game. Peatone Wilmington, Battle of Undefeateds. Streeter at Lyle. Streeter is undefeated. Big shout out to Streeter and that football team. They had a big game against Tertiary. Now they take on Lyle, who just comes off of a loss against Reed Custer. What will Lyle's response be against a very tough Streeter team? And that's a very tough Streeter team, no doubt about that. Woodstock versus Morris is another huge game. Morris is undefeated, taking on a very strong Woodstock team. Another interesting game to keep an eye out for as well. And we get into Richmond, Vernon, and Plano, 2 teams that are undefeated, if I'm not mistaken. Definitely another interesting game as well. Plano is definitely a team to watch out for. I forget the coach's name, former Aurora University head coach. But he's doing a wonderful job with Plano. And he's taking off where Kuntz left off, who left for Plainfield East as the head coach. Arcola, Toledo, Cumberland's an interesting game. Cumberland is looking like a big dog team in the Lincoln Prairie Conference. Going against an Arcola team that had a tough loss against Reed Custer and a tough loss against Tuscola in the first week. So definitely a game to watch as well in the Lincoln Prairie Conference. Bishop Mack versus Wheaton Academy. That's a huge game. Bishop Mack plays a tough Wheaton Academy team. They change the direction of where their team's going into? And like I said, when Bishop Mack gets into playoffs, they're going to be scary. Chicago Christian, Wayne St. Francis, interesting game. Riverside Brookfield at Aurora Christian. Aurora Christian's looking unbelievable. Bray, their quarterback, is an absolute beast. For Riverside Brookfield, Novak, great athlete too. Definitely an interesting game as we get into Aurora Christian versus Riverside Brookfield in the Metro Suburban Red. We go into the Mid-Illini Conference, Washington versus Dunlap. Big time game in that Mid-Illini Conference. And yeah, Pekin is undefeated as well. I think Pekin's going to be a great team. And definitely a big school you need to watch out for. Don't sleep on them. Moscato is Chase Hansen. He's doing wonderful things. Triad versus Civic Memorial is always a big game in the Mississippi Valley Conference. Civic Memorial is undefeated, if I'm not mistaken. That's another game to watch as well. Warren Township, Lake Zurich, always a big game. Lake Zurich had a tough loss against Libertyville. Libertyville's looking good as too, and Libertyville takes on Waukegan this week. Zion Benton is undefeated. And they take on Lake Forest. Huge test for Zion Benton. Big shout out to Zion Benton football. Well deserved for the ZBs. Belvedere North is undefeated as well, if I'm not mistaken. They take on Belvedere High School. Hanahu's undefeated. They take on Rockford East. And Rockford Auburn takes on Boylan Catholic. But Hanahu, Boylan Catholic, and Belvedere North looking pretty good this season. No doubt about that. Not that much going on there. Dupac versus EPC is an interesting game as well. Lena Winslow plays East Dubuque, but I think Lena Winslow is going to win that game. Galena at Stockton. Dakota at Forston is always a big game, but Dakota's having not a really good season this season. We go into the Prairie Land Conference. Rushville, Havana and Rushville, definitely keep an eye out for Rushville. No doubt about that. Merrill Forsyth, Pittsfield, could be a game. Williamsville at Auburn. Williamsville looks good this season. They're going to do some big-time damage in the playoffs coming up in November. No doubt about that. Pana at Staunton. I like what Pana's doing. Pana had a hell of a game last Friday. I think the quarterback, he got 4 or 5 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely an interesting game. Carlinville at Gillespie as well. Marion versus Cuyahoga is going to be another big game in the South 7. Definitely a game to watch as well. Hillcrest versus Lamont. Always an interesting game in that one. And at Jonesboro at Nashville. Nashville, not bad. Nashville looks good this year. And they're undefeated, if I'm not mistaken. And Nashville, definitely an interesting team as we get on later into the season. Benton and Hare. Benton's undefeated. Massac County, if I'm not mistaken, is undefeated. Massac County takes on Murfreesboro. That's a huge game to Southern Illinois, river to river. Murfreesboro is just killing it right now. They're just absolutely killing it, especially with that rushing attack. Massac County, we'll see how they handle that Murfreesboro offense. Lockport at Holdenwood Flossmoor. Tremendous game. Definitely Lockport undefeated. Homewood Flossmoor undefeated. Game that everyone's excited about. I'm excited about. We'll see what happens. Edwardsville at O'Fallon. O'Fallon's undefeated. Edwardsville's only got 1 loss. Big time game coming out there in the Southwestern Conference. No doubt about that. Quinoa. Gosh, did I say quinoa? It's a grain. Quinoa High School takes on Bureau Valley. Another big time game. Newman Central Catholic, big time team taking on Peru St. Bede. In Three Rivers, Mississippi, definitely a big game to watch out as well. Upstate 8, not so much. Glenbard Self is still looking for a game. Fenton had to cancel due to COVID protocol. Now we go into the West Suburban Gold. York versus Downers Grove North is a huge game. Both teams 3-0. For Downers Grove North, the team that we didn't really see that was up and coming, we thought that was gonna happen in a couple of years. It's happened this year now, and Downers Grove North is looking like the big dog team that it is. So do not sleep on Downers Grove North. Rock Island at Moline is always a big time rivalry game. Moline had a tough loss against Bennett Academy, but Rock Island is looking just absolutely tremendous this year in the Western Big Six. Definitely a game I'm keeping a very good close eye out for, especially with Coach Hammer and that Rock Island offense facing that Moline defense and also Moline's star player in Bailey. Definitely a great game to watch in the Western Big Six as Rock Island takes on Moline. Camp Point Central is looking great this year. They're looking really good this year. That's going to be a good game as they take on Brown County. Nope. And we go into the non-conference games. Aurora West versus Juliet West could be a big game as well. Juliet West needs a win. Yeah, just looking down more. Evanston versus Friend. Evanston needs a win. They need to win this. They need to win this Friday. No doubt about that. And yes, I am holding the microphone with my hand, and it is a pain in the butt. But what are you gonna do? Fulton and Madison could be an interesting game as well. Manuka, Plainfield Central. Manuka could get back and get back on fire. They beat a tough Plainfield Central team, no doubt about that. Cremoni looks unbelievable this season. I'm telling you that right now. Litchfield and Nokemis. Nokemis is one loss. Should be an interesting game to check out for. Morrison versus Hall. Very interesting game as well. Big shout to Glenbrook Self, by the way. Glenbrook Self is undefeated. They're another team to watch out for this week as well. Yeah. That game got canceled, and that game got canceled. New Trier Conant's a huge game. Conant's 2-1. New Trier's 2-1. Big time game. Vernon Hills is undefeated. They take on a tough Hoffman Estates team. Another big game as well. Maine South at Palatine, and that's a big game as well. Quincy Notre Dame versus Duke Nice. Quincy Notre Dame is undefeated. Definitely a team to watch out for. LaSalle Peru takes on Sandwich. I think LaSalle Peru is going to win that game. I think they're going to improve to 3-1 if I'm not mistaken. Buffalo Grove. Buffalo Grove is undefeated. Big shout out to Buffalo Grove. Don't sleep on Buffalo Grove. No doubt about that. Hinsdale Central versus South is a big rivalry game, but Central is going to win that game. Glenbrook South takes on Barrington. Big game. Big game you got to watch out for. No doubt about that. And that is it. And my arm is very, very tired from holding this microphone. It's been very fun. Make sure you follow Coach Big P and Deep Dish Football on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Wait for the end of this video because I will unleash all the polls for Week 4 IHSA for all the polls, Deep Dish Football polls on IHSA. Make sure you follow Coach Big P and Deep Dish Football on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. My email is coachbigpete@fp@gmail.com. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Also, Deep Dish Football Live, Wednesday, 8 p.m. tonight. Tomorrow, Do Page Run Shoot with my co-host Patrick Cotto as we talk DuPage County football. And remember, Saturday morning, 9 a.m. is Breakfast with Coach Big Pete on the Deep Dish Football page. Also, again, this month, September, is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. If you are interested, please leave a donation at St. Jude Children's Hospital. They do a wonderful job. And this is me, Coach Big Pete of Deep Dish Football, on the floor with a sore back and a sore arm holding a microphone. It's been a lot of fun. I will see you on Deep Dish Football Live tonight. Thank you guys so much for joining. Games of the week for Week 4 IHSA Football. Let's get ready for some football. And remember, social distance, wash your hands. Well, thank you so much. This is Coach Big Pete signing off. Week 4.